I want you to listen to a story about when I was 35 years old. I was running a small company with a friend I met during university. We were working on a game app for smartphones. We were having a lot of fun working on it, and we were really into it. One of our games went viral. In the world of mobile games, I became the president of a well-known company. Business was good and money was good, but I was so focused on work that I had no luck in love. Around that time, I met my wife. She was at the drinking party with a gathering of company's presidents from the industry. She had long arms and legs and a slender figure. She had a body like a model. Her hair was beautifully curled. She was very beautiful, to say the least. I'm a man who only ever thought about work. She was like someone way out of my league. I don't know how it all started. I had a chance to talk to her for a while. When she found out I was single, she stayed by my side the whole time of the party. We talked about a lot of things. I became more and more attracted to her. Looking back on it now, I guess I was too naive about women. I think the fact that she was the same age as me, it was something that made me feel even closer to her. As we talked, the conversation became more personal. Even though I knew that she was divorced and had a daughter, I proposed to her right then and there. Now when I think about it, I was really out of my mind. I'm a weak drinker. I usually don't drink alcohol even if I go out. But that day, on her suggestion, I drank a good amount of alcohol that day. That may have further impaired my judgment. Anyway, I proposed to someone I had never met before. To my surprise, she accepted it. Even when I sobered up, my feelings remained the same. And we got married about 3 months after that. It was all pretty fast. She also married quickly with her first husband. Her daughter was already in junior high school. Fortunately, her daughter liked me, and she was happy we were getting married. Suddenly, we were a family of 3. I was very happy. When I came home from work, my wife and daughter came to the door to meet me. They said they wanted to greet me. They promised to call me every day when they came home, and this continued. I loved and trusted my wife with all my heart, and I cared about her daughter very much. But one night, something disturbing happened. When my wife was in the kitchen, sitting on the low table in the living room, I saw her phone vibrate. I knew the name of the caller. It was my wife's ex-husband. He was paying alimony and child support for their daughter in installments. My wife had told me in advance that he was going to contact her about the money transfer and the visitation with their daughter. So, when I saw the name, I didn't think much of it, and I thought it was just something that had to be done. But my wife came back into the living room. "Your phone was ringing," I told her, and she looked at her phone and put it in her apron pocket, which felt a bit off. Somehow. "Hey, if you want to make a call, do you want to go to my room?" I asked her.
No, it's okay. It was just an old friend. He seems to be into some kind of multitasking, so I'm keeping my distance from him.
She explained very eloquently. I understand about her ex-husband. She don't have to lie to hide it. I was a little suspicious, but I didn't tell her I'd seen the screen of the incoming call either, so I couldn't press it any further. After that, when my wife's phone had an incoming call or text, I started to look at the notifications on the screen. I found that his ex-husband was contacting her quite often. I was told that the reason for my wife's divorce was her husband cheating on her. Her ex-husband was the exact opposite of me, in a serious profession. I don't think he will ever have an issue paying on alimony or other payments. I asked my wife if it was about money, and of course, that wasn't the case. But then I thought, why do I need to contact her so often? A suspicion came up in my mind. Once I get suspicious, I can't seem to shake it off. I asked a detective agency to investigate my wife's affair. After a while, I went to hear the results. I was told an unbelievable story. The divorce between her ex-husband and my wife was suspected to be a sham divorce. Alimony and child support were paid by her ex-husband's family, half of which went into her ex-husband's pocket. They are working together to cheat her ex-husband's parents out of their money. I was told that they have video evidence, It was taken at my front door. Looking at that time, it was just before I came home. As I watched the front door opened, a man I don't know came out of my house. I guess he was her ex-husband. And then, as if following her ex-husband, my wife and daughter came out to see him off. It was a kind of scene that would make you believe that the three of them were family. A scene of seeing off a husband who was leaving for a night shift. The problem is that the house belongs to me. I was shocked but continued watching the video. After 10 minutes later, it also showed me coming home. A near miss. As I said before, I always called when I was on my way home, because that's what my wife wanted. Even when I was taking a cab home, I always let her know how soon I'd be home. So it was because of this that I did that. According to the detective agency, these near misses were frequent. Her ex-husband had been in and out of my house like he owned the place. There were more evidences. There was also an audio from a bug in the living room. The conversations they had. The three of them were going on a family vacation. My company has a trip every year. They were talking about matching up their schedules to go while I was on the company trip. It was very thorough. On another day, I put a bug in the bedroom. I was able to record my wife and her ex-husband doing the deed. Having learned so much about what was going on, I was shocked, of course. I could imagine my wife married me and decided to divorce her. Of course, I didn't want to leave things as they were without doing anything. I decided to set a trap for the both of them. First, I told them we decided on the company trip. I told my wife the itinerary and the destination. The itinerary was real, but the destination was a lie. After listening to the conversation between the two, I knew where they were planning to go this year, so we decided to go there this year. Even the hotel was the same. The day after I gave them the false information, her ex-husband came over and confirmed the reservation. He booked the hotel from my computer. He was so careless. I could see that my plan was working. And then, the day of the trip arrived. I went sightseeing with my employees. I went to the hotel I had reserved. I arrived at the hotel just on time. My wife and her ex-husband, they wanted to enjoy the hot spring that the hotel has. I knew they were going to arrive at the hotel much earlier than us, so we could avoid running into each other. I had the parking lot checked by the detective agency. They confirmed that her ex-husband's car was there, so we knew we were on schedule. A group of guests would be at the front door, would usually be called out party of so-and-so company. But we'd ask them to refrain from that in advance. I'm sure they didn't notice at all. After going to the onsen, we were supposed to eat in the dining room at 7:30 p.m. When it was almost time to eat, the employees gathered around. A few of them spotted my wife. One of the female employees, who liked to chat, immediately approached my wife.
Miss Andrea, I see that the president's wife was here. Are you here separately? Why don't you have dinner with everyone?
Without any ill intentions. She brought her quite forcefully to the banquet table where we were gathered. My wife didn't seem to understand what was going on. She was dragged to me. When she realized it was me, she turned pale. I then blurted out, "Hey, it's my wife. What's wrong? My wife's here. What a coincidence. I mean, I didn't even know you were traveling. Who are you with?" I asked. My wife couldn't even muster the words to reply. The gathered employees seemed to sense the uneasiness between us, and they were watching us from afar. At that moment, I heard a carefree man's voice from the other side.
What's this? Honey, where did you two go? Your dad is over here.
The voice startled my wife. Honey, your husband is calling you. It seems your husband is not me, I said a little nastily. My wife stood there in a daze. Then she started to cry. Her daughter was watching from a little distance. I saw her running out of the dining room, ignoring her father's words. Apparently, she ran back to her room. Her ex-husband didn't notice me and was still casually looking for someone. I saw this and told my wife. Listen, Can you go somewhere out of sight? I want to enjoy my company trip. Having an affair with your ex-husband. I don't ever want to see your face again." Then I said to my wife, who was too frazzled to say anything, "Don't go to my house. I had the locks changed. I sent you and your daughter's belongings back to your parents' house." When she heard that, she fell apart. After I found out what had happened, I set us a trap. When I moved my wife and daughter's belongings out of my apartment, I asked the superintendent of the apartment and my lawyer to be there for the lock change. Before arriving at the hotel, I was informed that everything was taken care of. I knew that my wife's parents would be surprised to receive the package so abruptly. I included a letter explaining my respect for them and a copy of the evidence in the package. The plan was going perfectly. I looked down at my wife, who was in tears, without any emotion. Then, her ex-husband finally found us. He instantly realized what was going on and came running up. His pace fell. He stood my wife up and took her away. Toward their turned backs, "The lawyer will contact you. Please take care of her. There's no point in running away," I said and turned to the employees. They looked uncomfortable and I said to them, I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Well, guys, let's get this party and my life started over again," I proclaimed. I don't know if that was cool or not, but they switched gears and seemed to have a great time. I enjoyed the rest of the trip as much as I could. As soon as I got home, I went to my lawyer. I filed for divorce and alimony from my wife. I also filed a claim for alimony against her ex-husband. As we talked, I found out what happened to my wife and her ex-husband. The reason they got divorced under false pretenses was because her ex-husband got into gambling and got into debt. After the divorce, wife was living on various benefits, while half of the alimony and the child support from her ex-husband and his parents was diverted to her ex-husband to pay off his debts. The only reason she approached me on the day of the drinking party was that if she married me, she and her daughter would be able to live a luxurious life. She would have even more money to give to her ex-husband. Of course, I informed her ex-husband parents of this fact. According to my lawyer, her ex-husband parents were furious. They said they would make him pay it back no matter what. Since he is that kind of person, to make sure the money I was owed wouldn't be wasted on gambling, I made him pay it all in a single payment. People call it alimony, but in reality, it's just to compensate for the money he spent. And since it was a sham divorce, I put pressure on them by that the allowance wouldn't be fairly received. They sold everything they could sell. They even borrowed money to pay me in one lump sum. They didn't want me to tell anyone about the illegal payments. But I didn't say I'd keep quiet if they paid me. I complained to the chatty employee I mentioned before, and before I knew it, the conversation had spread. The two panicked and ran away in a hurry. They paid what they owed me, and the paperwork was already done. I decided that was enough and backed down. Now, my company is doing well. I'm developing a new game, so I'm very busy every day. This time, we are releasing a simulation game where you have to find out if your wife's cheating on you. I've been thinking lately that any experience can be useful.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. We look forward to seeing you again. Please subscribe to our